Hey y'all, what's going on? I wanted to come on here and talk about the whole Dania Jackson interview. I hope I said her name right. Very eye opening, and it was really interesting. The first thing I want to say is this: we all project, myself included, what we have within us, and I think it's very important, right? And I had this epiphany as I was sitting down and I was watching Real Talk with Yanni, because Real Talk with Yanni, she reacted to both parts of the interviews, and I think she put it on a sped up motion. So I watched the interviews by way of her reacting to them. And I remember very early on when Danae was talking about her essay, Yanni made it clear that she had like an emotional proximity to that situation, and that was a bit much for her. It's too reminiscent of her story of being like the awkward introverted church girl, or the awkward introverted woman, young lady that comes from a religious background and whatnot. And there was a lot of points where, between her facial expressions, her body language, and some of the things that came out of her mouth, I personally felt that she wasn't factoring in the context that Miss Jackson was given in regards to why she was behaving the way she was and showing up the way she was. And I say it all the time, and this is not for Yanni, this is just in general. I actually have a post on my community wall where I say, if you ask for an explanation to someone's actions and you decide to process that as an excuse or an inability to, be held accountable or take accountability, that's your own jaded and jilted way of thinking, because it's already a fine line between explaining why you did something and excusing why you did something. But I feel like the difference is, she was taking full accountability, and she sounded very sound and coherent when taking full accountability about the lengths that she was going through to compete with women that her husband was stepping outside of their union and disrespecting her with. How it, created an inability for her to truly develop intimacy in a mother-daughter relationship with her daughter, because her daughter was the same skin complexion as the women he was with. She was very, very honest. She was very, very honest. People do the best that they can with what they have to work with. And it's very important that when people, especially black people, especially black women, okay, come out and they're like, you know what? This is what I was doing. This is how I was doing it. This is when I was doing it. This is why I was doing it. The least we can do, if we're going to tune in, is just shut the fuck up and listen. You understand? And I know it's hard, because depending on where we as individuals are in our healing journey, that's going to determine how we engage, how we digest, how we consume, how we analyze. But it's very important, because I know for a fact her story is going to help lots of women. If she's not wrapped too tight, if she's going through a case of psychosis, if she got a few screws loose, she's two steps short of a flight, her elevator don't go all the way up, however you want to put it, that should be even more reason to extend her grace and compassion, because that means that she wasn't making these decisions from a sound place. She was making these decisions from a broken place. You understand what I'm saying? So, I just wanted to like start with that, because for her to be emotionally neglected as a child, then unfortunately, very early on into her adult adolescence, she gets, violated. She doesn't talk about it. She doesn't go and seek help. She doesn't do anything. And then that creates and lays a foundation for a predatory man. And this is the thing that people don't get if you've never been in this situation. predatory individuals, they know how to pick their marks. Like they really do. As somebody who's been on the receiving end of narcissistic relationships, um when I got into it with that one YouTuber, she was able to slither her way in because at that time, when I was doing Live with Leah show, I was being very transparent and forthcoming about being in my early 20s, trying to finish up my bachelor's degree and do all of these things, but not having adequate support from my parents. And I'm thinking, oh, this person is being a good Samaritan, like me just being green, me being naive, vulnerable. Oh, she wants to do this, she wants to do that. And then from there, because I also was getting into spirituality, that allowed me to become more open to her because she at the time was well versed in that from my understanding. You understand what I mean? The same situation with the $10,000, making big decisions and putting your trust in people from a space of being wounded, from a space of being vulnerable, from a space of being broken, from a space of grieving, whatever the case may be. These things happen all the time. And I don't think that anyone should be ashamed of wanting to be loved, wanting to feel protected, wanting to be seen. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just when we go and seek those experiences, right? And when opportunities present themselves from a place that really is just not good, it's not good intentions, it's not positive, this is what happens. It just is what it is. You can't be afraid to live. That's one thing that my spiritual advisor told me a few years ago. And he said, I don't want you to ever lose that. Don't ever lose your thirst for life. And don't ever lose that fearlessness to jump, head first into something, because sometimes that's needed. And it's moments where you go through heartbreak, you go through tragedy, things don't pan and turn out the way that you would have liked it to, where you learn lessons and you acquire tools so that moving forward, because life is all about cycles, when those things recreate themselves in your life, you better know how to navigate them. You better know how to navigate them. And I have never, I can't relate all the way to Miss Jackson's story because I've never been in a long-standing abusive relationship with a man like that. I've never felt the need to compete with a man to the point where I know he's cheating on me. I see videos of him having sex with other women, and now I'm feeling like I need to compete. I need to go to their page. I've never been in that space. But what I've learned is to thank God and to humble myself that the way my steps have been ordered for my path, I don't have to experience those things. You understand what I'm saying? And it's just life. It just is what it is. It happens all the time. I think about my mother who fell into the arms of a predator at 13 because the adults around her were neglecting her and she was hooked on heroin. And by 21, she already had my three older brothers and whatnot. And she went through a psychosis. She had to go into treatment. That's where she met my father. You understand? Like things happen. Things happen. And I say that to say I would not be surprised if between the two children that she has with Derek, that one of those children go off to do amazing things. I would not be surprised because we can sit here all day from a black and white point of view and not put nuance and be like, oh, some people just shouldn't be together. They should have never happened. And I get that. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm a multiple truth, several truths coexist type of person. And sometimes from the most tragic, ugliest, dirtiest, toxic, what the hell was you thinking type of situation, the most unique, beautiful experiences are crafted from that. God, I truly believe, makes no mistakes. Yes, sometimes we overstay our welcome and we allow certain situations and themes and people to overstay their welcomes in our life. But I feel like the fact that she has made it this far, talking about Miss Jackson, to where she can coherently sit there and convey her experiences and be fully accountable and present and what she was becoming, how that was manifesting, why that was manifesting, God is not done with her, and he definitely has a calling and a plan for her. And I feel like anyone who feels any different, you're just projecting your inability to be that vulnerable and honest with yourself. Let's just call a thing a thing. See, I'm brutally honest with myself. I don't run from myself. I'll curse a bitch out. I done fucked, I done sucked, I done stole, I done did all of that. It just is what it is. But you have a lot of people where they heal just enough. And that's okay, because I always say that we're healing within our bandwidth, right? But I feel like the reason why her testimony is making people uncomfortable is because it's putting you in a space where you're looking at your testimony. I'm honest, but I'm not that honest. What would that look like if I show up in that level of honesty? And instead of exploring that, y'all just boomerang it back, and then y'all start to question the validity of what she's saying. And I just don't think that was cool. I think a lot of us seek validation, and we're overly concerned with what the next person thinks and how the next person is going to feel about our lived experiences. And I feel like that becomes the catalyst for how we choose to show up, what we choose to share. And I do think Black women need to be more vulnerable, but I also empathize and have compassion for why we are not. We are not nice to one another. We are not kind to one another. And y'all always like to throw the accountability. Oh, she's holding herself accountable, so this is what it looks like. But no, if she went through a series of traumatic events that altered her brain chemistry and her ability to make sound decisions, she got with this man at 19, 3 weeks after going through a traumatic experience of being SA'd. Okay, this around the time from a clinical standpoint is when we're past autonomy, and now we're out in the world, because like she said, she's in college. So I don't know if she was staying on campus or not, whatever the case may be, but you're just trying to move forward. She's doing the best with what she has. It's always easy to look at somebody's situation, especially when they give us vivid details from start to end, and pinpoint, yeah, she should have never done that. He should have never done this. He should have done this. She should have done that. Of course, you can do that because you know how it ends. You know how it ends. But if I don't know Danae Jackson and I don't know Derek Jackson, and I just see them around on campus, and he has this whole other side to him, and that's the thing that I don't get, because remember, way before the helmet of salvation, them holding hands, whatever the case may be, a lot of Black women thought really high of Derek Jackson. So the same way y'all were duped and under his spell, I don't know why y'all find it so hard to believe that she fell under his spell too, with the added context of the trauma that she had endured right before she met him. Men know exactly what they're doing when they seek out certain women. They do. They do. They know exactly what they are doing when they seek out certain women. When they see you by yourself, and it's a repetitive theme of, okay, she's always by herself. I don't see no men come over here and check on her. I didn't see no men move her in. I'm speaking from experience. They start to plot on that. And if you haven't had enough lived experiences with lessons and tools to properly discern and navigate, you can end up in Miss Jackson's position. It may not be to that extreme, but that theme of being manipulated, being abused, being controlled, it definitely can manifest. And I think it becomes this situation where it becomes like, I don't want to say the trauma Olympics, but I think a lot of us get in this space where it's like, well, I've been dumb for a nigga, but I ain't never been that dumb. I used to be like that. Me, Queen Lovely. I used to look down my nose and be like, well, I ain't never been no baby mama. I ain't never married nobody. I never moved no nigga in. And I used to put myself on a pedestal. But one day, God humbled me, and he allowed, like, it's like he flashed my most embarrassing, shameful dating experiences before my eyes. And I had to just be honest with myself and say, you haven't gone to that extreme, but you still have betrayed yourself because you were afraid to be abandoned or rejected by someone who really should be happy to have you. And that was, I had to come to terms with that. So I think sometimes when we see other people living in their truth, it's like our knee jerk defense mechanism is to immediately compare and contrast. But it's like everybody has their own path, everyone has their own story. And I just feel like when it comes to her, what I take away from that is let's be kind. And I said it from day one when everybody was like, oh, she's cursing us out, she's doing this, she's doing that. I said, stay from around that lady's page. Clearly, she got some things going on. And sure enough, this man was doing that. It's sick because you have a lot of men out there that behave like that. And it's just really sad. It's really sad, but I'm glad she's in a space where she's healing and doing better. I wasn't gonna go through this whole thing and talk about everything that because y'all done seen it 10 times over, but I just wanted to come on here and talk about that. And yeah, so once again, let me know for the Axe Queen Lovely, and y'all have a good day. Bye.